Welcome, I'm Tim Scoggins. I'm calling the Shaftsbury Select Board meeting to order at 6:30 on Monday, October 20th, 2014. First order of business, does anyone on the board have a conflict of interest with anything appearing on the agenda tonight?
None.
Excuse me. Next up is approval of minutes. I believe everyone saw the minutes that were circulated with my additions to them. Are there any additions or corrections to these minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of Monday, October 6th.
Mitch Race moves that we approve the minutes of October 6th. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Tony. Any discussion?
Is that both meetings or just the water board?
That's both meetings.
We're approving both?
The
Okay.
entire night, yes.
Okay.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? 500. Warrants. Gosh, I can never find the identifying number on here.
No.
Well, we have a retirement warrant in the amount of $117.42. I move we approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mitch. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. I have another retirement warrant. I believe this one is identified as PR8R for $126.32. I move we approve.
Second.
Second by Mitch. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And this is
It's the payroll warrant.
payroll warrant. Thank you. Payroll warrant for the period ending 10/3/2014 in the amount of $18,793.61. I move we approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 And this is check warrant number 8 in the amount of $35,785.29. I move we approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Major items on here, $6,016 to Blue Cross Blue Shield, $1,119 to William E. Daley, $1,238 to William E. Daley, $24.55 to Doxy Roofing.
That was the slate repairs on the roof.
$15.40 to Garlock East Equipment.
It's a DPW crack sealing for the roads. It's material to seal the roads.
Oh, okay. Thank you. $33.75 to Mountain Air Assessors. That's the appraiser's bill. $21.20 to Sanders to Scale Service and Supply Company.
Yeah, that was a new scale, delivery, installation, certification, everything.
And $63.29 to TAM. And $22.65 to VRS Sales Limited.
And that's the pump for the brush truck,
Oh, okay.
for,
yes.
for Oliver.
The one you would not put on your American Express
The
form.
one I would not put on my...
Any discussion?
Nope.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? send that part down there. Item 5, announcements. Does anyone have any announcements?
Nothing here.
Public comments. Do we have any public comments? Ben, I would, if you don't mind, we have the generator business on the agenda. I'd like you to speak then, if you don't mind. Listers report. Mr. Boyle,
I just gotta sign all these.
Sit here or move?
come up here if you don't mind.
Okay, hot seat. Okay.
Take them down, she hasn't signed it yet.
The first item that I have is to get a E&O approved by the select board. This was,
E&O?
I'm sorry, what?
ENO.
Errors and omission. And this is for a property located over in Glastonbury Road. The owner requested us to notify her when the grievance hearing was taking place, and we failed to do it through some miscommunication. So that makes it an error on our part. She purchased the property about a year ago, and at the time paid considerably less than what we had it on the books for, about $68,000, $69,000 less. And so we're asking to reduce her assessment down to $120,000, which is a little bit above what she paid for it. And this is a fairly standard practice that we,
Said she paid 68,
she paid $68,000 less than what we had it on the books for.
68,000.
We had it on the books for $189,700, and she paid $115,000. She had an appraisal that was a little bit higher, so we went to the higher number for our grand list. So we need the board's approval to be able to make that change.
It wasn't a bankruptcy sale or?
No.
Okay.
Now, we've checked it out, and seems to be a pretty good sale. And with the way the market's going, we kind of have to swallow these. Don't like to, but it's the process. If we don't, then she's going to grieve, and if we don't change it, then it's the BCA, and then it goes further, and we're going to lose at the end. So it's easier to cut these off at the pass and be done with it. So I'm asking that you would approve this change.
Is there the name on the,
Yeah, it's Ann Whalen was the buyer and the property owner at the current time.
Need a motion. Yep.
I move that we accept the lister's recommendation to reevaluate the property
For Ann Whalen, under an E&O.
for Ann Whalen,
Excuse me, I can't reach that far.
reducing the value from $189,700 to $120,000.
Second.
Discussion?
just some clarification, this is because she bought it for what, less than 120, and then they had it reappraised as part of the mortgage, and it came in?
Yeah, she had an appraisal done to get a mortgage, and the appraisal came in higher. And there was a little bit of concessions in there that brought it down to the 115. But I felt that Rich, who I know, Rich Goodfellow, did the appraisal. I know Rich, known him for years, and I felt that his was probably a good, true value that we could rely on.
Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Do I need to sign something, or is
It's
the
on the
motion?
back.
On the back of the first page.
Oh, okay.
And this was missed because she didn't come to the grievance, or you didn't let her know?
We failed to notify her in the process of grievance. We were busy. It kind of got overlooked, unfortunately.
Knock the third off, right?
Thank you. The second item that I have is I wanted to talk about the mapping program that was approved back in July of 2013. And at the time that was approved, before we could put the mapping program, open it up to the public, we had to come and ask the select board for its approval. It's a pretty new board. I think, Mitch, you're probably the only one that was around at the time. What we have is taken our tax maps, and they have been digitized, And we have put them in a program that'll put them up online so that you can look at them from home. It's good for lawyers, it's good for real estate brokers, and just the general public to be able to use it. It's also a tool that the zoning officer has been using, and we've spent quite a bit of time, or I have, getting it up to line. There's a few little missing items that I need to do. But we would like to put that up to the public, make it available to the public sometime around the 1st of December. Based upon the concerns of the board at the time, we are only going to put up the basic information. And I think, Mitch, again, you're the only one that would remember that. There's a second component, and I'm not too sure how we want to deal with that second component, and that's putting up the property record cards on that site also, so that people can get a copy of their listing, see what the sketches are, and so forth, and how we appraise their properties. And that's, I'm not too sure how to go forward with that, whether we need to, probably should ask permission from the select board to do that so that we kind of follow the practice that we originated back in 2013.
No, that's just the sheet that says it's a 3-bedroom and 2-bath, 20 by 20, that, it doesn't have the actual physical schematic of the property with the layout of the house in there.
No, well, it would show the perimeter of the house, certainly, the exterior dimension, but no interior.
No egress, no windows.
No, it's just, and a picture of the property would be shown. I think in the long run, I've worked in 6 towns, and all of them have got this mapping program. And I run from Barnard, which is a pretty high-end town, and I've got it up at Proctor. We haven't had any complaints or problems by putting the whole package up. But I wanted to take it step by step, and I'm willing to, or the board is willing to, I shouldn't say I, the board is willing to, you know, if you want us to take the first step, see how that goes, and then maybe 4 or 5 months later, I've got to do some work on it, get it ready to be put up as far as the sketches and the valuation information, then we could come back to the board if it's your pleasure and ask your permission to put the rest of the package up. But I would like to get the first part up so that people can start taking advantage of it.
Yeah, I think originally one of the major concerns was that there was going to be like architectural layouts out there that, you know, the perimeter of the house, which doors, which room is what, and that was kind of a little bit much to, you know, but the basics, I don't have a problem with it personally.
When you say put the system up, I assume you mean that there'll be a web interface where people can somehow search for a particular property or a map, or would it just be the digitized maps would be there and they'd click on a PDF and it'd bring up the whole map?
They can put in either by name, location, or the parcel ID, the information, and then they can pull up that parcel. And at the moment, what it's showing is the owner's name, address, the valuation, and that's all that would be available in this first rollout. And then later on, it would be, you would get a little more detail. And it'd be web-based. We could link it in through the town website as a link, and people could go to it and take a look at it. It would be practical for someone who's maybe doing a subdivision, or they need permission from the DRB to do a project. They need to get it on Butters list. You can create that through this program also. And there's contour maps, flood maps. I think the zoning map is on it. So there's a number of features on there that would make it attractive to a lot of local people.
What's the disadvantage?
I don't think there is, quite honestly. I mean, there was a question, I think the big question was the disadvantage, are we affecting people's privacy? And I think we always have to be aware of that. But you can do a lot more on the web, on the internet, than this program will to find out about somebody.
That's public information.
Plus, that's all we're putting up there. And I think the other part of it is that the Lister's office is typically only open 1 or 2 days a week. And this way, the people can get information if they need it when we're not there.
Is this the final word? I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say is, what is the official word? What is the official document? Is it right here at Cole Hall in the cards, or is it on the web page? You know,
It's a good question. There'll be a disclaimer in there saying that if you have to, this is what we're giving you, it's not for gospel, you've got to come to
Okay.
town hall and check it out and make sure that everything
Okay.
is as it is.
I was thinking, if it isn't kept right up to date, then somebody could say, well, or if somebody goes there and gets the abutters and somebody's missing, they can say, well, it's on the webpage that I did what I was supposed to, but if there's a disclaimer there, then they have to do their due diligence and do it
Right.
officially.
And part of the program is I can update on a monthly basis all transfers anyway. It's pretty easy to use, and
okay.
so that would help. But again, you're right, we do need to make sure we have that disclaimer, because we don't want to get into a mess
Yep.
over something.
Well, it should be the same, it just might be delayed of 30 days or something.
Yeah.
Where is this interface and the information stored? Would it be on our servers?
No, it's a cloud-based operation from a company that we have contracted with.
The
It's
CAI?
Yes, Cartographic Associates over in New Hampshire.
Okay, so there's no security risk to our network by
No.
making this available?
None whatsoever.
Yeah, well, I think this is what we've been doing this for the last several years, so, yeah, I don't see any reason to not move forward with it.
I guess, I'm sorry, Tim, how do you want to take the first step first and then have us come back so you can see what's going on?
Could you give us a demo, just one more, I think you gave us a preliminary demo
Yep.
originally, and that'd be nice if you can come in and give us a demo of some live data. That is what they'll be able to see.
Yep, that's no problem. So I think we'll shoot to put the basic information up, and then once I've got a little coordination with a couple of companies to make sure that I get the sketches up, and before we go live with that, we'll come in and give you a demo and hear your comments and say yay or nay on it.
So you don't need a motion at this time? You're just going to wait for a demo?
I do to be able to put up the
Okay.
basic,
Yes.
Okay.
because that's what the agreement was with the board.
I so move.
Second. We have a motion by Art Whitman to put the basic information about property from the Listers digitized system on the web, available to the public. We have a second by Tony. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstained?
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 8, Treasurer's Report. Bill, welcome.
Good evening. I understand that Dave distributed budget status reports to everyone.
I believe that's this paper here.
Okay, so I'd like to call your attention to the budget status report. This is close to today. It does not include the warrant that you just approved because you hadn't approved it when I finished these this afternoon. So absent that warrant of about $35,000 reflected in it, everything else is reflected to date in these statements. We have recognized revenue for tax billings because we've sent the tax bills out, and that revenue is on the modified accrual basis, so we're collecting taxes now. We have billed approximately $1,430,000 in property taxes, and that's the basic revenue recognition. We've also received a payment from the state. We get a small percentage of the so-called prebate payments to assist the town in the accounting for that. We've recognized the amount of late filing penalty of about $3,400 that's been assessed against late filed tax homestead declarers. And essentially, our total revenue at the present time is $1,457,000 tax revenue against $1,431,000 in the budget. So right at the budgeted amount. This number will change as we get closer to the end of the fiscal year, we may have to defer some of this revenue that's not collected. And chances are there'll be some delinquent taxes and we'll have to defer some revenue. We did receive our second state highway aid payment this week. That's another $39,000. So we've received half of our state highway aid to date. We've also received the state payment in lieu of taxes. So together we have an intergovernmental revenue. We have about $98,000 in revenue. We will hopefully receive the other $79,000 in state highway aid in the third and fourth quarters of the fiscal year. We have some of these state land use and the Vermont Forests and Parks, and some of these payments come in late in the fiscal year. I think you saw that last time we were talking about the June 30 year end. Charges for services, we're just, we're starting the fiscal year. Access permits are essentially front-end loaded. People buy those at the beginning of the fiscal year. We've collected about 89% of what we budgeted for access permits. We're running at about, pay-as-you-throw revenue is running at about 30% of the total budget for the year, and that's approximately where we are in terms of the calendar, about 30% of the way into the fiscal year. Hazardous waste, obviously we haven't seen all of that yet, and our zoning and building permits are running, they're roughly 25% of what's been budgeted for the year. Licenses, we haven't recognized any licensing fee yet. Fines and forfeitures, we're just starting. We've got some state police activity this year and sheriff fines as well. Small amount of interest income so far. And the other categories, the cemetery revenue is significant in that we've collected about $5,000 of cemetery revenues at this point. Our other income, we're still showing that employee health share. It's the employee's contribution to health insurance. And we're totaling at this point recognized revenues of $1,590,000 in round numbers. So, we've recognized about 85% of our budget. On the expense side, if we look at on page 3, total administrative expenses, you'll see that we've recognized about 47% of our budget as expense, but included in that are some beginning of the year payments, specifically the insurance and bond, which is all recognized, it's all paid at the beginning of the fiscal year. That's the major item that stands out as being not on a fairly smooth or even keel or even basis throughout the year. Coal haul, 6% of budget's been expended so far. The town clerk's at about 30% of budget at this point. And, in finance, we're again a little less than 30%. The auditing expenses are really low at this point. They'll increase significantly as we do the town report at the end of the fiscal year. Delinquent tax collection, that goes on every month. Our delinquencies are down now to approximately $48,000. And as of November 11th, we'll start to see what the new delinquents amounts will be. Our treasurer services is right on budget. The listers are actually, they're at about 18% of budget, and that number varies a little bit with the different activities. Total general government is about 33% of budget at this point in time. In terms of public safety, we're looking at total public safety is really only about $17,000 in total against a budget of $103,000. There's nothing really large in those categories except, we've paid the sheriff for their monthly services, and we've got some expenses for the fire department that show up on the front end of the year. In terms of public works, total public works, and I'm moving ahead now to page 8 of 10. Total public works, we've got about $198,000 of expenditures against a budget of $1,005,000. If you go back up to the highway administration, we're at about 26%, and that's about where it should be at this time of the year. We're about 95,000 against a budget of 362. The highway construction and maintenance, we're spent about 45,000 against a budget of 347, and included in that 347 budget is the sidewalk construction maintenance, 97,150. And of course, the winter expenditures, salt, sand, are not showing up yet. And on highway equipment maintenance, at this point in time, we're looking at, we've spent about 18% of the budget, or $16,000, against a budget of $90,100. The highway garage expenses are about 10% of budget, and when the heating fuel season starts, that will increase. Solid waste facility, about 17% of budget. You just approved, I believe, tonight, the September invoice from TAM, so that's not reflected in here. So that amount will be added. They tend to, their billing is usually about 45 days behind the end of the period. Street lights are right on track. The park is right on track. It's about 37% of budget. Cemetery expenditures are about 28% of budget. So as I said, overall, Public Works, 20% of budget at this point, with the comments that I made. Not much in Development and Review Board, and planning has only about 8% of budget expended. So planning and development are really low, about 7% of budget at this point. We have not made any community appropriation payments. We won't do that until the tax revenue's in. That's usually done right around the end of the calendar year in December sometime. We've paid half our county tax bill. We'll have another half that's due at December as well on that. So we're on track with that. Our debt service expenditures at this point, we paid about $214,000 against a budget of $245,000 in debt service expenditures. And then our transfers, so-called transfers to reserves, which are designations of our funds to particular, either designated funds or capital projects funds or special revenue funds, whatever the purpose of them is. We haven't expended any of that yet as well, and we usually do that sometime in the second half of the fiscal year. So that's a budget of $182,000. So overall, our budgeted expenditures, $201 million. We've spent about $561,000 at this point, or about 28% of our budget. So we're at the moment, we're really doing well. You know, we have a budget plan to spend down our fund balance by $120,000, and because of the recognition of tax revenue, we're now at a positive $1,028,000, which number will change significantly in the next few months. So not time to have a party or anything about that, okay? We'll be spending that down. It's just the way our accounting method is for revenue recognition that makes that number look large. So that's the budget status report for the general fund. I also have a balance sheet in front of you.
Bill, can I ask a question?
Certainly.
I think I asked this before, but I can't remember. The county tax, how is it assessed?
It's assessed on, first of all, we pay it twice a year. It's assessed on the value of property that I'm going to call them the side judges. The assistant judges, as county commissioners, determine their budget, and that budget is prorated to the towns.
Okay.
And then we get a bill from them. The first payment is due right at the beginning of the fiscal year, July 1. The second payment is due 6 months after that.
Thank you.
Quick question on the, I missed something on the delinquent tax collection. You said we were at 30%.
I think what I was talking about was the delinquent tax collector's expense.
Okay.
Delinquent tax collector,
Okay.
his fees are subject to Social Security tax.
Okay. Thank you.
And we recognize, we estimate what the delinquent tax collections are going to be. And, you know, only a portion of those outstanding delinquent taxes are really our revenue. The rest of them are school revenue that we've effectively advanced to the schools to cover. Because the town's obligated to pay the school for its taxes, whether or not we collect from the taxpayers. And so this all gets cleaned up at the end of the year.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Our balance sheets in front of you, we have right now about a little short of $1 million in cash on hand. That number includes $150,000 in tax receipts. We have another collection of taxes that came in today that haven't been recorded yet. But we are seeing significant amounts of cash receipts. We do have, we've probably collected about 20% of our billed taxes at this point. And if this year, as it probably will, runs true to form, we'll have a tidal wave of cash receipts on the first week and a half of November, when everybody comes in at the last minute to pay their taxes. But we have currently about $4.2 million in taxes receivable, which includes the town tax and the school tax, because we bill it all. The school tax is offset, if you look at the liability section, $3.6 million is offsetting that receivable. So in other words, we don't recognize the school revenue. It's simply a liability. We collect the money, we pay it to the school, and reduce the liability. At this point in time, as I said, delinquent taxes are down to about $48,000. We have a large amount due from other funds. Principally, it's the White Creek project. We're waiting for reimbursement on that. And when that cash comes in, that due from other funds figure will be reduced significantly. But right now, the general fund has advanced the monies to pay the invoices on that project. We have borrowed $340,000 on our tax anticipation notes, and it's about time to, I think the next warrant will have at least a partial repayment of these notes on it for you to approve. And that is it of any significance on the balance sheet. So right now, as I said, we're ending the year, not ending the year, excuse me, strike that. We started the year with about $363,000 fund balance, and right now our revenues exceed our expenses by $1,028,000. So our fund balance on October 20th is approximately $1.4 million, and if we run true to form by the June 30th, 2015, that balance will be somewhere in the neighborhood of about $240,000. With a planned reduction of $120,000. So that's the general fund report. We're trying to manage this and the tax and water collections, we're getting a significant amount of water collection activity. And we're seeing, payments, not necessarily individually large payments, but payments are coming in pretty regularly on that. And I just note in passing that the water receivables are down significantly from where they were at the beginning of the fiscal year.
Okay,
But
good.
we got a billing cycle coming up again. And, we'll be back out collecting, or I won't, Jim again as well. Any other questions I could answer for you? Well, I thank you for your attention. I hope I didn't take too much of your time.
Sounds like we're right on track.
We are.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Good evening.
Zoning bylaw changes. We have,
Yeah, just basically the wording, the advertisements out, and all the notifications are made for the board to hear the language for the last time for the zoning bylaw changes November 3rd. It's an open public meeting, and that'll just be the final approval for the wording that will go to the ballot on March the 3rd, on town meeting day for the 4 proposed changes to the bylaws.
So the planning commission is having an open meeting on 11/3?
No, you are. The planning
Okay.
commission is done now. The select board just needs to vote on the 3rd after a public hearing that this is the language that was printed today and will be available to anyone who needs it. That these are the 4 zoning bylaw changes that will be voted on by the public on March 3rd. It's a statutory requirement that we have another hearing, a warned hearing. That warning has already been in the Bennington Banner and posted, so we're good to have the hearing on the 3rd.
That's our regular meeting.
Regular meeting. We will have documents available as required from different sources, mostly the Planning Commission, a little background information that will be available to anyone who asks, and we'll get some of that up on the website. Not all of it, because some of it gets quite long. But any questions, and anybody can call the town hall, and we'll provide the information for them.
Are any of the planning commission members going to be here, or planning on being here?
Well, they're going to know what's going on. You haven't heard specifically from Chris or any other member if they plan to be here, but I'll certainly reach out to them. But again, this is mostly just approving the wording that we've already discussed and has been discussed with the Planning Commission. But it is a statutory requirement that it's a warned formal hearing on it.
Right. Yeah, I think this is in the category of moving along toward getting these bylaw changes in front of the voters in March.
Yep.
Okay. Emergency generator status. Ben, if you would come on up here. The couple of things have happened recently about the emergency generator over at the school, and for everybody's remembrance, and for those who haven't followed this closely, over a year ago, I believe it is now, the school was able to obtain from the school district an emergency generator, essentially surplus, essentially free. Our school board jumped at the chance to get it because they recognized that Shaftsbury Elementary is designated as an emergency shelter for this area, should we have one. And having an emergency generator there that's available to supply power in the event of an emergency, that includes power outages, would be a good thing for people who show up at the school seeking shelter. So that generator was acquired. It was installed partially, maybe the right word is placed, at the school with the generous help of some local contractors who donated time and materials to get that initially placed, including Ben Hewlett with some electrical work. Peckham donated some concrete. John Soretta helped us out, and one or two other names that I'm ashamed that I can't recall right now, but that information has been published. I believe it was in the last town report, the people that helped us out with that. The select board then went about the business of budgeting and finishing the installation. At the time, the select board felt that it would be appropriate, or maybe they just felt like they couldn't come up with the full budget amount that it would take to put in the generator. And that number, for all intents and purposes, to do a full installation of the generator is $30,000. The select board budgeted $15,000, feeling that the school might budget the other $15,000. There was never a commitment by the school to do that. That was just the hope of the select board at the time that would happen. It didn't work out that way, and so towards the end of the fiscal year, we were looking at a situation where most of that $15,000 that had been budgeted had not been spent, and it was going to go back into general revenue. Finishing the generator was going to require going back to the voters and asking for that same money again. David, to his credit, was able to recognize an opportunity to buy materials to the tune of about $9,000. There had been another $2,000 or $3,000 worth of work done in further placing of the generator. So that $15,000 did get used, but still we had half a generator installation done. When we, I think maybe prompted by us showing up at the school with a big truckload of wire and parts that we wanted them to store for us, the school board said, for crying out loud, let's get this done. Okay, we'll help you pay for it. We would like to get it done before winter hits this year, because winter is the most likely time we are to have an emergency. And the town and the school agreed tentatively at a school board meeting recently that I attended to split the final, what we believe is about $13,000 final installation cost, $6,500 for the school, $6,500 for the town. I said I felt that that should happen. I indicated to the school board that I could not commit to that because that's a decision of the board, and that's a decision I'm hoping that we will make tonight to go ahead and fund that money and get that generator installation done. Now that, as history, Ben Hewlett, one of the contractors who donated time and the materials to that initial installation, has been in contact with us via email with some issues that he has with the bidding process and the way that this whole thing has fallen together. The emails were, I always feel, not a good medium for this kind of discussion, so I asked Ben to come down here, and I thank you, Ben, for doing that. So I'll let you indicate now what your problem with the process is.
Well, your word
today.
donation is, we were under the impression that once the 15,000 came in, we were going to be reimbursed. So the donation was temporary.
Okay, I have not heard that
First of
from
all.
any of the
First-
other, for the record, I have not heard that from any of the other
Fine.
people that
That was
participated
a
in
discussion
that.
between one of the coordinators and ourselves. And second, I don't think anybody did anything wrong. I think it's just inexperience. Something's miscommunicated, but I've read your purchasing policy, and 30,000 seems to be well over the line. And even this last amount seems to fall within other categories. But I just wanted an explanation of what department this ultimately is responsible for the generator. I had it in the email. Did you all get a copy of it?
Yes, we've all seen the email.
So it's just, who's the operation and maintenance of the generator? Did the town of Shaftsbury receive a $15,000 grant to help install the generator? If so, to what department? I'd like to view a copy of the bid solicitations given to those electricians that gave a bid to the town. I was not asked to give a bid. After I installed it, I kept telling them, this is more, this has to go out to bid. This is more than I could legally do or morally do, whatever word you want to throw in there. I've installed almost 200 generators. I've installed 6, at least that size. I've been called in after on a few jobs for generators that size that don't quite cut it to make them go even farther. So I just wanted to review that. I wanted, the scope of the generator's function, the placement of the equipment as in transfer switches and where they were going to go. Conduit size, wire size, all that stuff should be engineered by a true engineer, because there's a huge liability that whoever does this is taking the whole electrical system and in structure onto their liability. I ran in this with the town before with methane gas at the landfill, placing methane detectors in the neighbors' homes. And then the town wanted to tweak it to make them shut their furnaces off, and it's like, I'm going to do this job for $400 and take a $3 million liability. You really got to kind of engineer this. How were the bidders selected and solicited? Why weren't other contractors that pay taxes in the town of Shaftsbury given the opportunity? Only one was. The other fellow, I'm understanding, is from Bennington. I know he's from Bennington. The town of Shaftsbury has a purchasing policy. I'd like to see the minutes of the meetings where it was decided not to follow this policy. Where in the town policy does it state that by purchasing piecemeal, a project is exempt from the town's purchasing policy? And I've contacted one of the school board members has approached me and said he believes too that this is kind of not right. So, and then I just wanted a clear explanation of I wanted to point out definitions. The objectives of C, E, and G, where they met. I'd like to point out definitions of A, the purchase order, B, major purchases greater than 10,000, C, regular purchases between 3 and 9,999. Article 4, major purchases 10,000 or more. Article 5, regular purchases between 3 and 9. And I can read those to you if you like.
I've got them up on the screen here.
And then you just said it, but I just wanted to know what, it's $30,000 job, this generator?
The complete job was about 30, would be
That's
about
about what I
$30,000,
told.
yeah.
Told the school representatives.
That's 15,000 already expensed, and then another 15 to get the three-phase wire and get it all hooked up? Or have we not spent the initial, I thought we got the pad and all.
The actual cost is more like 23 to 25,000. Of the 12,000 that was budgeted last year, only $9,100 was spent. The rest did remain in the general fund, because there was nothing to spend it on. At the time, we had no anticipation that we would get any money to finish this project. So the intent was, we have voter-approved money at this stage right now. We have proposals to do the work. Let's take the lowest one and let's buy the parts before the price goes up. When the grant was applied for, and then we subsequently found out that we may not get the grant till sometime next year, if we get it, it just introduced opportunities. At the time when we expended the money that was budgeted last year, I really didn't think we'd have any possibility of having the funding for this, for finishing it now. And that's come up now, that the money is actually here. There was no way of anticipating that a few months ago that we would have it. At that time, it was just a question of, are we going to lose what was budgeted last year? Because when I came in, the books had to be closed. And so it was determined, because we had proposals to buy the parts, and that's all we did. Parts, and 2,900 wasn't even expended. It just returned to the general fund.
And I just wanted to bring, this is an example of a bid spec for a generator for replacement, one that's already been there. This is the plans to replace. I mean, this was a federal job, so there's a lot of words in here that probably really don't need to be in there, but it's a lot of covering things. But there's blueprints, and not that they had to get into that depth, but there should be some sort of, so that we're all bidding on the same exact thing, because I can walk in there and give you $1,000 different price than somebody else. It can be quite a spread, because are you gonna use that generator to its full potential, or are you gonna wire for what's in there now? Will what's in there now even work for what you wanna do? And I don't even know what we wanna do. I don't know if we have a standby generator, or if it's an emergency generator. There's two different things, completely different things.
Okay. If you have nothing else, I'll respond to some of those. Okay. Ben is right. If we had a $30,000 job and we had $30,000 that we had budgeted to spend it on, it would have been appropriate, according to our bidding policy, to put that to a formal bid process. And in our policy, that's considered a major purchase, which is over $10,000, and it requires a formal bid process where we take bids from a number of contractors. Those bids are submitted in closed envelopes. They are opened in meeting. There's a lot of public warnings and newspaper advertisements that make the public and the local contractors aware that we're doing that. For purchases less than $10,000 and greater than $3,000, our policy says we should get quotes for that work, and then the select board can approve that work.
Can you go to that page? In the Article 5? Please?
Yes.
Article 5, regular purchases. And then there's all the steps. You can go up.
Yes, competitive bid solicitation. So we ask for quotes essentially, and then the select board decides who to make the award to. But it's not the formal process that requires advertisements in the paper and that kind of thing. Now,
I and E says, how many bids did you receive?
we believed, we got 2, we believe we asked for 3, and I believe it says shall be sought from at least 3 vendors. So it is our belief that we sought them from 3 vendors.
Who were the 3?
Carpenter, Meyer, and Hewlett.
Hewlett never got one.
I understand that you're
In this
saying
form.
that,
In that form.
After I convinced them that they need to put it out to bid. With specs.
right. Well, what we believe, and I don't want to get into a he said, she said here, and I hope we can agree that some miscommunication has happened here. And, but what the select board has been led to believe is that you were asked to contribute a quote toward this process, as were Myers and Carpenter, and that quote was not received. I understand you have a different view on that. All I can say is that that's regrettable.
How was it
And
resolicited? Letters? How were they solicited?
They were solicited initially by the school, and in a joint project like this, our purchasing policy doesn't say anything about how we handle a joint process, say, between, one, the town and another municipal entity like the school. So,
What department does this generator fall under?
what department?
The department. Who's
Emergency
ultimately in
management.
charge of this
Emergency management.
emergency management? And what does that fall under?
I have to go into the town plan, but
We have a,
town report,
that town report
I
handy?
don't have a.
What's your point?
The department falls under the town of Shaftsbury, it falls right under
Yes.
the selectmen.
Yes, the emergency management is the town of Shaftsbury. The town of Shaftsbury, when this is all said and done, the town of Shaftsbury will have spent most of the money to get it done. And the final part of it, it looks like by a recent agreement, will be done by Shaftsbury, and then the town will be reimbursed by the school. The main thing I want you and the public to be aware of is I think it would have been really poor form on the part of the town to accept donated labor from a contractor and then not invite him to bid on the final contract. And that was not our intent. We at no point felt that that had happened. All we knew is that your bid had not been received. And
When did the bids go out? Because the last time I was at school was in March, and the fellow said to me, "You're right, that transfer switch is $12,000."
yeah, I don't think
I knew
it's going to
something
be.
was coming, and I never,
I don't think it's going to be productive to get into a back and forth about, trying to decide where that communication
but you keep
happened. I hope
telling
we,
me that I received, and I have not.
I'm telling you that the board was led to believe that that happened.
Yes, you were
So
right.
that it was not our intention
I don't understand that.
to cause that to happen. The fact that it happened is regrettable. I don't know that there's anything we can do about that at this point, though. You should have been involved. We thought you were involved. If you were not involved, like I say, we apologize for that. It was certainly our intention that you would be participating in that, and we would not want you or any other contractor to think that we have that kind of opinion of people who donate their labor to the town. We have a high opinion of people who donate their labor to the town. So I don't know what we can do about that. What we can continue to talk about is the bidding process and our purchasing policy. And I still would contend that we have not violated our policy. Our policy does not address the situation where a large job is broken up into smaller jobs by circumstance. It was certainly not our intent to break this up into many small jobs. The intent was that we were going to put up $15,000. The school was going to put up $15,000. It was going to go to bid, and it was going to get taken care of a year ago. It didn't work out that way, and so we've kind of been scrambling to make it happen since then, make it work. And like I say, thanks to David, we recognized an opportunity to spend money on parts that we had budgeted in the first $15,000. We've been trying to find a grant or some other sources to do that. Jerry Madison, our emergency management coordinator, got his church to donate $1,000 to the process. We have been trying to go through FEMA to get a grant. We may still get that grant, we may not get that grant, but that is some time off. The school, as I indicated last week, and the town decided that we really should get this done. It's sitting there, it needs to get happened. It would be a terrible thing if people started showing up at the school this winter in an emergency situation and we didn't have that generator prepared to do that. So we essentially, as I said last week, looked in the couch cushions, decided we could both come up with the money to get this done. And in the end, the town's portion of that is going to be $6,500, which is in the below the major purchase, and I believe it was called regular purchase.
You were there, 5.
Regular purchase, the $3,000 to $10,000 range, which requires that we collect bids. And along this process, we have accepted, we have shown some deference to the school in accepting their suggestions for contractors, the bids that they solicited, and felt that that was adequate and appropriate.
So, a $30,000 job falling under the town of Shaftsbury does not fall under the purchasing policy.
A $30,000 job does
Split or
fall
not?
under is considered a major purchase. We did not ever spend $30,000.
Yet.
We spent it in pieces because of the way the
I understand.
history happened.
Because of the way the budget is, we
Still a
only had
project.
so much money per year to spend.
And where's that policy state that? I mean, where's the meeting that we discussed this and said, well, we're gonna do it
At
little by little?
each of the steps, each of the sub $10,000 steps, a motion was made by the select board to make that purchase, according to the policy for regular purchases.
Which still asks for 3 bids.
It says that 3 bids shall be sought,
Yes.
yes.
It says other things too, right?
Hmm?
In there, it says some other things too.
Yeah, there are a number of details there.
Okay.
I think it comes down to I hope we can agree to disagree. We don't feel like we violated our policy. Clearly, you think we did. I appreciate your indicating here and in our emails that it was not our intention to violate the policy. I think we all wished that the generator project had gone differently. The manly thing for the board to do 2 years ago or a year ago would have been to budget $30,000 and get it done. We didn't do that, and what we ended up with was a piecemeal process, but I think we have done the best we could to try and get the job done. I would also point out that in our purchasing policy, there is a provision for emergency purchases. And the emergency purchase says that in case of actual emergency, when the purchase of supplies or equipment is essential to prevent delays in work, which may significantly affect the life, health, safety, or convenience of the town and the public, the department head can, with the consultation of the town administrator, make the required purchase. So in the event of what is deemed an emergency as defined here, we can set aside our purchasing policy and just get the job done. And I would point out that significant inconvenience is a pretty low bar that would allow us to set that aside. And I believe that the board who wrote this policy did that with cognizance, that they were aware that the town's main job is to get things done. And in this case, getting it done means getting that generator in before another winter goes by with it sitting out at the school not doing anything.
Well, it
And-
runs itself. There's heaters. It's,
Right, but it's not serving the purpose that it was acquired for and
correct.
taking up room for.
has the school ever closed for power outage
Uh,
in the history of the school?
I don't think that's relevant to whether or not the school will be closed for a power outage or whether or not there'll be a disaster in the future that will require Shaftsbury to be an emergency shelter. It's
Yeah.
certainly designated as an emergency shelter, and I think we would all agree that an emergency shelter with electricity is better than an emergency shelter without electricity.
Have you informed Green Mountain Power that it's an emergency shelter? Because they will work to provide power there, like they do the hospital.
So you're suggesting we should not even be putting a generator at the
Well, I
school?
don't see what the rush is right now, but until this is straightened out, this seems like a big mess to me. And I, for the record, am not interested. I came here because there are two other electricians in town that did not show up here. So I don't hear anything from them either about me ever working for the town or the school. But this does not seem right. Seems like you can go back and rethink this. The generator's not gonna rot away. It runs, it starts, it'll be there. And if there's a real emergency, there's 4 electricians in town that can get it running in a hurry.
I don't believe I have any more to say. Does any other board members have anything they'd like to say?
I'm a little bit concerned about the word donated help was done, but you're telling me that you were told you would be paid afterwards?
We were
That's-
told we'd get, because the grant wasn't in yet, so. I don't know if the word donation is the right word. I don't know what you,
That's,
it's kind of like,
that bothers me. It seems like there's a lot of different, I'm confused over whether the school,
Well,
and that's fine. If you want that time, you can have it.
were you solicited for that donated time or pre-time or whatever, prepaid until the grant came in? Were you solicited for that, or did that go out to bid?
I happen to be working at the school. I was the school's electrician.
So is that different than,
It wasn't more than 15,000 to set
it
the,
was more than 3,000?
no. It was
What
only
do you
1,000, well, I don't know altogether, it could have been. My section was maybe 1,000. Take a little bit.
You believe that the donated, the
We're
quote donated
compensated
time and
later.
material was worth about $1,000?
It's like 3 days of stuff.
Ben, who told you that you would get compensated after?
The school's building and grounds manager.
Okay, so we go back to the miscommunication and the intention
Yes.
that we're talking about here. Yeah, yeah. So.
And I would think everybody else was told that too, but, and that's fine, I don't mind.
Yeah.
I'm a Bury boy through and through, and I will be. But they wanted to get it going, just wanted to get it there and get it set up.
To help with my recollection of the old board a little bit, I think Larry probably would remember this also. From sitting in the meetings before, when this all started, it was pretty evident that Jerry Madison thought there could be a grant sought for this whole project. The whole cost was $1, if I'm not mistaken, for the generator. And Jerry thought there was going to be a grant to pay the whole rest of the bill to have this completed. So whatever happened there happened, and then I believe the old board said, well, we can't just let it sit, but we can't come up with 30,000 this year, we'll come up with 15 of it. And I believe what happened was, they didn't have the money to finish it, so it sat there, and then Dave took over right when we were gonna lose that money, because it was a fiscal year, and I'm not sure if it was J.G. Temple or whoever gave the price of the parts, and I believe that's how the parts got bought, was just to buy the parts so you didn't lose the money, how it does at the end of the fiscal year. So that's my recollection of what they went through before when none of you members were here.
And I also think
I
these,
think I was on the board when
Maybe
it
you
was
were.
brought up.
I think,
I don't
they had a
remember,
grant
it was
for
just
the
mentioned, like you say, on the money part of it, but I don't know.
Gary thought it was a sure thing of a
Yeah,
grant.
right.
And then they canceled all them grants and it fell through.
well, I think they also thought it was gonna be a lot less to hitch up than in reality it is.
But the other thing is, Ben, you brought up a point, and I don't know, was there any specs put out on this?
No, not that I've,
Because, I mean, if you hook that thing up wrong, you're gonna see a lot of sparks over there.
that's exactly what I'm saying. There's a
I
huge liability
believe
there.
There was 5 electricians supposedly contacted, whether you were or not. I want to say there was Crossman, Carpenter, Myers, yourself, for the 5.
Carpenter and Megawatts said they've never heard of anything.
Megawatts, I don't think somehow got on that
Yeah,
original
yeah.
list. That was the 5 they thought of for the town of Shaftsbury, that lived in Shaftsbury, and for some reason, I don't know why, they didn't ask me.
John Myers doesn't live in Shaftsbury though, does he?
Lives
Has he
directly
moved?
down here.
Has he moved?
He's lived in his parents' house the
From
last
Michael,
5
okay,
years.
all right. I didn't know, last I knew he was up on Michael's.
No, they were trying to get all Shaftsbury residents to vote, they don't.
But they, I mean, my point is, like Ben said, that I'm not an electrician, long ways from it, but
Here's the spec book.
Well, I don't know what specs were done, I just remember
I
what
mean-
was said in the meeting.
the first 2 pages I'm done.
Exactly. I mean, there's a lot of stuff.
Well, my point is if you're gonna do something like that, number one, if you're gonna put out specs, everybody's gotta be the same.
That's exactly.
And number two is, you know, somebody that knows what they're doing better drop some specs so that we don't.
It was understanding that Jim Secoy was gonna do that. And it was my
Well,
understanding
it's, cause
that
that's
Jim
the
and-
first I heard the specs are,
that Jim and, Peter only walked into did some sort of
right, I mean, I
walkthrough.
think the project should be done and is a good deal, but, like
I
I say,
agree.
there should be some serious specs on that.
Yes. Which I'm sure these specs cost, this was a $60,000 project.
Yeah,
Did you say Jim Secor was supposed to do?
I think so. I think that's.
I think that, I don't know, maybe you're confusing that with the garage or something. He
No.
did a lot for the
No, it
garage.
was him. Because
I don't remember that.
his name came up as a
No,
donation.
no conversations that I've been involved in front of the board, and I think I was around for most of this, involved going to Jim Secor for specifications. I believe all along we have expected, as we often do, when we hire a contractor, we believe them to be competent to do the work that we hire them to do.
Well,
Just like when we hire somebody to put a roof on, we understand, we take it on
Yeah.
faith that we hire somebody who's got a reputation and is competent to do the work that they do. I don't think that, I doubt there's anybody on this board, certainly not me, would be able to look at specs for a generator and decide whether or not they're correct or not.
I don't believe the state fire marshal would allow it to be put in wrong.
Yeah, this all has to be inspected by the state. The state has to supervise it. Obviously, it's a professional electrician doing the installation,
Peter has to sign off before it can be,
yeah, before it can be used.
But they never look at the plans until after something happens. No one reviews that plan at the state office until there's a problem. But he can sign off, that doesn't, it's kind of a money gathering thing for the state, I would think, more than, it's not the state's liability after the state says it's okay. It's just one step in the grand scheme of things.
are you telling me that when Peter gives you a certificate of occupancy that it still can be wrong?
Yes.
Wow, I don't believe it. Okay,
You can ask them. I'm told that they just take their prints, they never look at them, they put them away. If Whitman's feed store burns down for some electrical reason, they pull the print out and then review it.
I've seen him do many a walkthrough, and boy, he's checking everything, so.
Different phases. Yeah, they gotta do the rough in, all the hookups and before any walls get put on and everything else.
Well, we have some more business to continue with this. Ben, if you have anything final to say, please do, but I think we've butted heads about as far as we can over this, and I think
Ben, did you get, I don't think anybody intended to exclude you from this process. Did you understand that?
Yes, oh, yeah.
And you understood the process, the history of how this came about? It was a piecemeal,
But I don't understand how a piecemeal can avoid the policy. That's,
well, I don't think it was anybody's intention. I mean,
Yes.
if we could go back in time and, we had the money to install it and insisted that it happened, we would have done that and done the process. But because there were two entities involved, two boards involved, it just became this.
but you understand it comes under one department, whether there's two boards and.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, in retrospect, sure. I mean, I think at some point we probably all should have sat down in the same room and got it all,
And in the future, I would hope the
yeah,
town administrator would say to whoever the
yeah.
chairman of
Yeah.
that thing is here, you have to go through this policy.
I just don't want you to think that you were intentionally excluded from this process. I don't
find
think,
it kind of funny that, I've worked at that school for 40 years and
yeah, and
I
again,
convinced them to do this and then I don't get any,
yeah, and again,
Yes.
what we understood was you had been communicated to.
no, I haven't had any communication with
See,
the school since.
and nowhere did,
I believe we've covered this pretty
Yeah,
thoroughly.
so-
I'm going to suggest that we
Yeah.
end this part of the discussion. Ben, thank you for coming. I'm sorry we couldn't
That's fine.
agree on this, but I appreciate you being respectful to us, and I hope you feel that we've been the same.
Oh, you have. Thank you very much.
thank you.
The,
Do you want to do anything with this, Tim?
that is
The MOU? or-
MOU. Yeah, I do want to do something with that. First, I want to get back to what, before Ben's objections had come up, what the purpose of this being on the agenda was to follow through with the agreement that I implied with the school board the other night, is that we would spend up to $6,500 to complete the generator job if they would come up with up to $6,500 to pay the other half. And again, as I said before, the intention of both the school and myself, and I believe, I hope the rest of the board, is that we would like to get this done soon, to get the generator in place. It's been sitting there for too long. So I would move that that we appropriate $6,500, or that we spend $6,500, which we have as a, thanks to David, found in essentially the couch cushions here at Cole Hall, to complete the generator installation job in coordination with the school. And I would ask for a second.
Second.
Discussion.
Is this a memorandum of,
There is a memorandum of understanding. I recommend we take that up as
A separate
next.
item?
Yeah, we've got a document here that we can look
Okay.
at.
so we're just voting on the money at this time?
Correct.
And this will finish the project, and this will be done by December 1st. Is
I
that the
can't
end?
promise you an exact date. Our intention is to appropriate the money, pick a contractor, and get them working on it as soon as possible before we're knee-deep in snow. Any more discussion? All in favor of spending $6,500 to finish the generator installation job at the school, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 500. Next, we need to award a contractor. We have received two quotes, or the school received two quotes, one from Myers Electric, one from Carpenter Electric. The Carpenter, the Myers quote
It's significantly lower than
significantly
Carpenter's.
lower than Carpenter's.
And the balance on it is approximately 14,505.
14.5, okay. I thought the number was 13,000.
Yeah, sorry. You only spent, yeah, 13,000. Plus $1,000 to be covered by the donation from the church too. So that reduces the expenditure from both boards.
Okay.
So you have about 14,000 it is. Because there's no donation. It's 13,000 between the two boards plus the donation. covers the whole thing.
Okay, so our part of the...
Yeah, our part is 6,500, the school board
We
is
get the 13 to
6,500.
14 by the $1,000 that
$1,000
Jerry's
donation.
church donated.
Yes.
Thank you. I move that we award the contract to Myers Electric. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion?
Is there any chance of rebidding that so that Ben could bid on it?
Ben's not interested,
Okay.
because I've stood up, I was trying to give Crossman and Brian a crack at it.
Well, yeah, I mean, it didn't mean just you, I mean,
No, I know, but thank you.
We could do that. Some of us are uncomfortable with doing that in that the other bids have been out there for quite a while and are public knowledge. It puts them at a disadvantage because anyone who came into the process now, as we just indicated exactly how much the current bid is, it would be give them an advantage in the process. The way this normally happens when we're talking about a regular purchase that requires quotes, we call up 3 people on the same day and they send us quotes and we choose from them. While it's not as secure as the formal bid process, it does require each of them to make a separate parts list and labor list and come up with a number. Any other discussion? All in favor of awarding the contract to Myers Electric, say aye. Aye. All opposed?
no,
Abstained? That's 4-1-0 with Ken Harrington objecting, voting no.
nothing against the contractor, it's just the way the thing come out.
Understand. The third piece of business is the memorandum of understanding between the town and the school relative to this. I hope the board has seen at least one draft of this document.
How many?
There's been a few. The title
I
of
see I just read the last.
title is has the suffix Tim 4, Rick 1. So Rick Pembroke and I have been going back and forth on this. It's essentially the same as what you have seen, I believe. Today there was a last-minute flurry of activity between Rick and I where Rick suggested that we spell out in the MOU that the town would do the work and the school would pay the town back for the work rather than the other way around, or trying to come up with some sort of joint by a contractor kind of thing. Mitch found a couple of typos there at the end. But the essence of the agreement is that it states that we have acquired this generator at little cost, that partial installation has occurred, that the generator provides benefit to the school and the town. The town gets an emergency shelter that has electricity in the event of an emergency. The school benefits by having an emergency generator that can kick in anytime their power goes off. We split the final cost 50-50. The town is essentially responsible for the generator, for keeping it maintained and repaired if it breaks. But the school will be responsible for maintaining insurance on the generator. They will give us any money that they get should the generator be damaged or destroyed if we commit to replacing it. They will provide electricity and fuel to maintain the generator as general operating procedures, running the keep alive cycles that it's required to have every so often.
The district will pay for that, right?
The district will pay for that. And the school, of course, agrees that by entering this agreement, the school is an emergency shelter, which has been the understanding for some time. The agreement can be terminated if the town does not feel finish the installation and keep it under good repair. And we fail to act within 60 days of being, or 6 months of failing to correct that situation.
Do we know what the maintenance schedule should be on that? Most generators have a yearly maintenance schedule. Sometimes they tear them down and break them up, rebuild them up depending on the usage and even no usage.
There is currently a contract with Brookfield to maintain the generator.
And that's,
So I don't know the exact schedule, but there is a contract in place that.
and do we have a fee for that? Do we know what that
Yeah, I can-
contract is?
I can tell you in a second.
Another thing, the only other thing I have to bring up is the insurance proceeds the district receives as a result of damage to the loss of the generator. I would like to know what the insurance covers. If it's replacement value or is it value? And if it's value, I mean, those things are very expensive, and I mean, they don't usually fail that often, but, an insurance, you can get a replacement value or you can just get the value of your content. So, or depreciated value or something. So that's just something I had thought of, and we asked Larry, he didn't know what the insurance, they had insurance, didn't know what type of insurance it was.
Do you feel that you would decide to enter into this agreement or not based on the specific replacement value of the insurance the school is holding on it?
That is a very expensive piece of machinery. It's like $100,000 plus machinery. If it's cost, and if it's replacement value, that'd be nice to have. But I don't know how they estimate what it's worth after it's been. I don't know how much the insurance would give it back. That's kind of what I'm getting at. I would like to know if it's a $100,000 generator and it's 10 years old, and is it going to be, they're going to give us $20,000 to replace a $150,000 generator in a year or two? Or is it going to be, I mean, it's just a policy. It's just look at the policy and that we could determine that.
My opinion is that we got a $150,000 generator for free. We're getting a benefit that we would not otherwise get because the school board acted to acquire that generator. I think we would like to have this, my opinion is that I would rather see this get in place for this winter than worry about whether or not, in the event that it gets hit by a meteor or blows up or whatever, that whether or not we're going to be able to replace it at full cost. We didn't spend full cost to get it. It's a perk. It's gravy, in my opinion. I don't think whether or not we get full replacement cost or not from it is a reason to hold up the process at this point.
Are you gonna find an insurance company that'll give you $150,000 or $1?
Yeah.
The town has got no money in it.
Until it breaks.
Well, yeah, but I mean, what I'm saying, I don't know if an insurance company would insure that way.
How old was it when we got it?
We got it from the other little school. I don't think it'd been used down there because it wasn't big enough for when they built the middle school. Isn't that what it was? Didn't we get that
it
from
brand
the
new?
middle school?
Yeah, I think it
Was
was.
it brand new?
Brand new.
If we're going to pursue this seriously, can I have a motion that we
Yeah.
approve the MOU between I will make a motion that we approve this memorandum of understanding between the school and the town, this one entitled Generator MOU TMS4 RIC 1, as its current iteration, and ask for a second.
I'll second it.
Okay.
So we have discussion. So what, if we deferred the MOU till the next meeting, when we get the information, what will that do to the project? That's not going to hold it up. It's still, the contractor has to move in and begin that whole process anyway. So we're not losing anything, right? If we hold off until we get the insurance specifics.
This is pretty much after it's up and running.
Yes.
So I don't think we lose
You
much.
think it's going to be running by then?
No, I mean,
Oh,
well,
no,
this,
no.
this kicks in after after it's up and running, right?
And I'm not even sure how soon he could even start working on it.
I think we got a couple
I kind of
weeks.
disagree. I think the whole project is being held up by this. They aren't gonna commit their part until they understand we're committing our part. That's what this is saying.
Of the $6,500.
We have committed our $6,500 by the motion we passed a few moments ago.
Right.
So I don't think that, I guess, well, I don't think that the project has to stop waiting on the memorandum of understanding.
Okay.
I think I would rather see the project go forward with a memorandum of understanding.
This is a late
Who's
breaking,
paying for the
too.
maintenance?
I mean,
Are
we
we
didn't
or the school
realize-
board?
The town pays for the maintenance. It's currently $1,300 a year,
Okay.
unless it's changed in this.
Didn't I read someplace up in there that the
Town shall perform-
school board's gonna pay the maintenance? Or
No, we're
is
going
there
to pay the
diff-
maintenance, they will pay for the electricity and the fuel
Okay,
that it takes to
Okay.
maintain the generator, well, to,
Yeah.
that's part of the maintenance, I
Yeah.
guess, the keep alive cycles that you have to keep run on those things regularly. yes.
Okay.
Start it up once a week.
But the contractor who goes in and does that maintenance, we're paying for.
yep, okay.
I just don't want to have buyer's remorse when something happens to it and we have to replace the emergency generator at the BIT school. Because that's what this says. Or we just null and void this contract, one or the other.
We don't
Say-
have to
say-
replace it.
Say that again? I don't think that requires us to always maintain a generator there.
No, I mean, we can just not do anything and this thing goes null and void after 6 months.
Right.
So that's our out. But once we take this step, I think it's something that will need to be maintained. Otherwise, why are we doing it in the first place?
We're doing it in the first place because we got the generator for free. The fact that we're not getting it replaced by insurance, I don't think is a reason not to move forward. Any more discussion? All in favor of agreeing to the memorandum of understanding between the town and the school, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Abstain? So we have 4-1-0 with Mitch Race voting no. So the motion is
Just-
agreed to?
I just wanted to see the insurance policy to see what kind of reimbursement we may get, that's all.
I'll be happy to contact the
Then
school
Rick
and
and see what's
talk to
going-
Rick Pembroke and find out the details of the insurance for you.
Okay.
Right. I think the generator is a done deal.
That'll be Mitch 5 and.
Pardon?
That'll be Mitch 5, or, that'll be Tim 5 and Rick 1 on it.
All right, item 11, solid waste implementation plan. David, I hope you've got this.
Yeah, just a quick update on this, because Mitch and I have yet another one, a long series of meetings down in Bennington. As you know, the state has putting in lots of new requirements on how to dispose of everything from your, from everything. Yeah, all kinds of new things have to go on, nothing to take things out of the garbage stream. The big debate now is whether we have a district or an alliance or stay the way we are. One of the things we're going to be talking about at the meeting, a current example of a district, it's based on, your voting is based on your population, usually 1 per 1,000. In Bennington County, that would, clearly Bennington, the city would outvote us, almost all of us, all the time. So although there's very many positive aspects of the district and maybe getting a paid professional to coordinate the entire thing, especially as we move forward to having to break up this stream from, everything. As Mitch knows, everything has to be.
All organic waste has to
Organic
be.
waste has to be separated out. There's lots of more restrictions on the haulers themselves. The haulers have to have trucks that can break it up even more than it is now. There's just so many things, bills have already been passed where we have to make adjustments over the next few years, all the towns in the county. that the SWIP we have now has to be adjusted. And we're really working on, and the main point of discussion at our next meeting will be, I believe, what are we going to come back here and say we want to do? Have a district which will take some of the day-to-day control out of the towns, but we'll get kind of like a professional manager to coordinate the entire county. I mean, right now, we're doing a lot of things mainly because we have our own facility. We also have our hazardous waste days, which also have to be changed as we move forward. They have to be more frequent and spread around the county. There's can be a central recycling area. There's just a lot of things on the table, and for the whole county, it's becoming a kind of a problem, from the smaller towns to the larger towns. And it's just a way of balancing out. I know some of the towns are concerned about losing control over all this, but I think part of going to a district makes it better control and more professional control, and a better way to keep tabs on all these different things that are going on, instead of all of us with our little piecemeal approach to it.
And that's kind of what the meeting is about Monday. It's that we're getting a professional to come in and give us the pros and cons of a district, solid waste district versus a solid waste alliance, and what the benefits of each are. The district is less administrative stuff for the town to deal with. It's all handled by the district, but that's a separate entity, which really the town doesn't, we might have a representative in there, but we don't,
We would
based on the way.
have votes based on,
as a
couldn't work
state.
on population in this county because one town dominates the county.
Yeah.
But there were ways to adjust how we could vote to get everyone to get a reasonable share of making decisions, because a district would pass down the rates to the towns.
It would be autonomous. It would be its own board and structure itself, but with votes by the town, and the way it's currently set up in one of the other towns, it's by population. We don't think that would work in this type of setup.
Yeah.
So it's stuff to think about.
Yeah, and every town equal vote, I can imagine some towns are a little bit hesitant on that too, because some towns have significantly more issues than the smaller towns, and would like a better, larger say in, especially when we get into rate structure and things like that. So it's just a work in progress. I just want to keep the board up on it, because at some point, we're going to hit you with a fairly large document that has to be reviewed, and just where we're going with this. But we should have more information on what we think the best way is, the district or the alliance, hopefully by January. There are little benefits to the alliance in more equality, one-to-one voting, but I don't know if that's going to fly with everybody in the county, and I can understand their point of view, too. It mostly comes down to letting a separate entity set policy and fees, where we would have some input, but not total control like we have now, for a town like Shaftsbury that has its own facility and everything.
Yeah.
And even at this stage, the outcome of our own facility isn't clear to me.
Yes.
Would that just be taken over? Would we wind up signing part of that over? Would that be closed and people would go to Bennington? So there's just a lot of questions still.
Yeah, there's still a lot to be worked out. It's, one of the disadvantages of the district is that we lose any control over like I said, it's completely autonomous. It's its own board.
Yeah.
It does things on its own. But on the flip side, as an alliance, we have a lot more administrative duties as a town to do to work with this alliance. We'd have either a member of the board being on the alliance, and it could be in the SWIP too. I mean, it could be in the district also. I mean, to me, there's a lot more questions than answers right now, and that's what we're trying to work through.
And like I said, the big thing is, I just want to keep bringing this up. It's kind of like the hazard mitigation plan. It's going on. There's going to be lots of different permutations of this thing, but at some point, the whole
Well-
package is going to arrive, and I want you to know.
What's the date they want the final, the plan to
Well,
be,
we
like
actually-
next June or something?
Yeah, it actually has to be by law, I believe, but done by the end of this fiscal year, so,
So it's not it's a pretty aggressive schedule.
yeah.
At least the first draft, I'm sure, between 2015 and 2020, when it's fully implemented, there will be many changes
Yeah.
to the document and to the way things are handled, but
The decision on whether we become a district or alliance, is that just a selectman's decision, or is it a popular vote.
I think it will come back to the towns in the SWIP right now, so there's, how many?
And that's a legal question, though, Art. I'm not sure. We'd have to check our status as we've run into with zoning changes, too, whether it's voted on at an election or the board can just decide.
Okay.
We'd have to research that.
That might be a ballot question,
Yeah.
question.
I mean, a smaller town might just be able to be voted on by the board, but that's a good question. I don't know where we would stand on that. Might have to go to the electorate.
Solid waste participation.
Is it, if we create a district or an alliance, do we have to include Bennington? Is it required to be countywide? And my reason for saying that is not because I don't like Bennington, but because Bennington could be their own district or alliance, and all the other small towns in the district could be, in the county could be their own district or alliance.
Well, how I view it is because they are basically half the population, we lose a great economy of scale by having them in and reducing overall cost. If we can find a way to program us all together for certain amounts of these things that have to be broken out from the stream of refuse. I know they're interested in having some parts of it, like the hazardous waste area, have more recycling down there. Again, work in progress, but there is, on one hand, yes, leaving the biggest piece out and the rest of us trying to work around has its benefits, but there are scales, some economies that can be met maybe if we're all working together.
And how many, the state is mostly districts now, solid waste districts,
Yeah.
right? We're one of the few counties that still have a SWIP implementation being run
Yeah.
by the BCRC. And that's another thing, BCRC is trying to get away from it.
Which is the part we have to watch too, because BCRC is trying to get away, and then we don't want to wind up with having to have, group meetings constantly to decide day-to-day activities around the county and planning all these different, hazardous waste day, recycling, getting the fees. There's so many different things in these new laws on what has to be done with everything.
You gotta have a or hazardous waste, and it's gotta be
Move
within
around the
20
county.
miles of the hazardous waste drop-off. So you've gotta change it around the different parts of the county to get within a 40-mile diameter.
And Rupert is part of this, so you're talking about you have to move it way up to include them, then you have to move it way down to include Searsburg, Searsburg, I think it is, and so, and like Mitch said, right over Wilmington, that all belongs to a district, and it seems to work well for them over there. So we just need to do some more exploration. I mean, their part where, because they don't have a real dominant town, they were basing it on 1,000 population, which works out. But, like I said, Bennington's half the population here, so we have to work a better way to get input into the district and how things work. Otherwise, every vote would be decided before we had it.
More to follow.
Yeah, more to follow. Lots more to follow on.
Okay. Good, thank you. Road foreman update. Terry. Sorry to keep you sitting here so long. We normally get you on by 7 o'clock.
Right.
I think mine will be a lot easier, I'm not sure. White Creek Road is completed to the specs of the state, plus a little extra, but we'll see if it works.
Yeah.
We waited 8-9 days after we did it to put the patch on it. It seems to be still there, the same elevation it was. I think after the rains Thursday will tell us.
Yeah. If we're sinking Friday, we know we have.
Yeah, well, no, there's still a problem.
To go to Plan B or C at this point. But the lines are on, and everything, everything
lines are on.
contracted for it is done. And we'll hopefully get Bill the money, the reimbursement quickly now. So we were waiting on the last part of that.
Salt shed update. That you?
Well, yeah, basically, we want to talk about the tractor with you, but, yeah, the salt shed is really next week, Wednesday night. We'll see where it goes, whether they,
We've got a warning letter, not a warning letter, just a notification letter saying that if you can get your salt now, get it now, because there could be problems come January,
Yeah.
February.
yeah, so we've ordered.
Our problem with being so restricted the amount of salt, it's gotta make people a little bit nervous.
Yeah.
They're notifying you already, so.
How much extra capacity would that be, Terry?
At
A third?
16 feet, but with the roof up to 22 feet in the front of it, I would say we can do another half as much as we've got.
50% more.
I believe we'll put 120 ton in there versus 60. I mean, it's not a great increase, but at least it's something.
Yeah.
And if we have to wait 3 weeks for a load, when I start calling, I mean, as soon as I start using it, I'll call.
Yeah.
And hopefully forward to the back of the salt shed, the loads will start coming. I'll call each day and order a load
Yeah.
to try to keep it with the storms. The last 2 years I've been here, it's 24 hours, I get a load of salt. Last year was 3 weeks. So I was begging, borrowing, stealing from North Bennington, anywhere I could get it to keep us going.
Do we still owe North Bennington?
One truckload. He didn't want the money last year, which would have been easier out of our budget last year. He wanted the salt replaced this year.
Smart.
That
So
one
just to
truck
be
is what,
clear,
18-wheeler?
Triaxle,
Yeah,
22
a
ton.
tractor.
Our intention with the salt shed expansion is to double our capacity from 60 to 120 tons.
Yes. Just to buy us more time in the winter if there is a slow go. I believe in the wintertime, I just rough numbers, I think they get 50 railroad cars in a day. When they empty their supply in Albany, they get 50 railroad cars in a day. They take whatever orders they got. When they run out, that's where the orders start the next day. So I could be 3 days down the list before they even get it processed, because they're only going so far with 50 railroad cars a day. So that's why it's like 3 weeks out. When they have the big pile there, they just put truck after truck after truck out 24 hours a day, and you get it the next day.
And the 120 Terry's talking about is only a fifth of what we have projected for the year.
Yes.
So even with this doubled, we still only have a fifth of what, last year, they used just 38 tons short of the 600 tons we ordered, so, yeah, it's not really, this, even doing this is really a short-term solution.
And we were
Still
pretty
need to be
skimpy
able to
last year
store
with
all our
salt.
salt somewhere.
I tried to stay under the budget, but we were pretty skimpy with using it.
What do you know about salt additives or salt in treated
Well-
salts and that sort of stuff?
I like the beet juice that I've looked into, but the problem is the storage facility and how you have to do it. We can't do it here, and you gotta have a big tower to supply the juice in with a pump underneath it that runs the fire hose where you spray it as you put it in. It's a matter of room right now, to have it, to do it.
You'd need a different
you
mechanism
need
to lay
capacity.
it out too. You wouldn't work in a trucks with it, or you'd have to get a different attachment.
No, when they dump it, you put it in, you have to have a bigger area, obviously. You put it in with a thin sheet like we do right now, mixing the sand.
Okay.
And then you spray it, so it's purple, basically. It's a light coat. Then you put another 2-foot layer over it, and you spray it again, and it becomes just a sticky, like molasses solution, and it sticks to the road, is what it does, so you don't have the overspill that goes over and feeds the deer.
Does the cold affect that? Like,
No, not at all.
Actually, I heard it has a lower freezing point than regular salt,
Well,
like
the
20
molasses
degrees.
is probably the best, but that's expensive stuff.
Yeah, but it goes down to almost 0 versus 15 degrees or whatever.
It's even, we discussed the pre-treatment of roads, but you still need a proper facility to.
Yeah, you have
load
to have a
trucks
lot
and
of area in
things,
the
so-
tanks, and right now, we don't have a lot of area.
No,
Okay.
no. Just as an aside, because I know this has come up in other towns, if we used the full 600 tons this year on the new prices, we'd be about 9,000 over budget. Yeah, it's much better than where we started out with the first bid of like $92. We did sign it for 78. $65 a ton. So, like I said, if we used all 600 tons, we'd be about $9,400
I
over
believe
budget.
the Cargill came down to match that.
Oh, did they come down from?
And we have a third alternative also that we could actually get 1,800 tons this winter, but we're not obligated to anything. We have 3 sources now that we can get salt through if we have to, but they're all crying the same thing. Get it now
Yeah.
if you can supply it.
Yeah.
I have tried mannequins and I've tried Brian Lent very hard. I could put probably 20 ton down at mannequins, but that's it. Brian has nothing, no area to store any.
Does he have indoor storage down there?
Yes, but they got specialty sand in there for precast.
No.
And I want to say that in the garage specs that I've been reviewing, I don't think even our first most expensive garage ever envisioned holding 600 tons. I want to say it was like 200 tons was what a new, state
Yeah,
of
but
the art
200
for
ton, it
us
should buy
salt
enough
shed would
time to
be.
keep ordered, to keep it coming as you're using it. The problem here is a good 4-day weekend, I could empty the 60 ton.
Right.
If you have solid rain or something for 4 days straight, we could empty this thing in no time.
Yeah, it's just I wanted to make sure everybody realized that we would never, even
Yeah.
in our wildest dreams, be in a position to buy a winter's worth of salt in the
Yeah,
fall.
at one time, yeah.
Nope.
We have the bucket loader, I guess.
Bucket loader. What you're looking at is a John Deere 644, John Deere. It's got a lot of writing on there, and from what I was informed by Sergeant, it's a hard name, but anyway, he said that whatever was written there is absolutely false. He guarantees that it needs one hydraulic hose on the boom and a starter relay, and that loader is fine. Now, whether that is the truth or not, Steve, our mechanic, says everything in that loader out back for all the expensive components will fit into this thing, and in a 2 or 3 day period, he could fix anything on it. He went to 2 years of John Deere school. We can purchase that for $500. It's got everything but the bucket. We have the bucket. All the glass is good. It is what you see there. I did a lot of calls today, and I finally got a hold of this Sergeant Hutchinson, or whatever his name was there, and he says, I know that loader well. The only reason we parked that loader is we got a new one. They gave us a new one. It's got, he said 2,800 and some odd hours on it. It's got no hours on it. And he said they ran it right up the day they parked it. And he said, I robbed a hydraulic hose off the bucket because I broke one. And he said, I know they took the starter relay out of it for some other reason. That's the only things that have been robbed off it.
So the business, the transmission will not engage, will not start, rear tire
He
split.
said that, the tire, he said he knows it will hold air to get on a trailer. He don't know what the other issue is, why they said it was split. But he said they can blow it up, and he guarantees they can get it on a trailer, no problem.
In fact, it's mounted backwards.
Who is this you're speaking to?
Yeah,
It's the head mechanic at where this base is. It's right over the Maryland border, right off of Pennsylvania. It's right over that bridge. It's right there. It's about 300 miles from here. And as I say that, I've only got one quote so far, and I know I can do better than this. They quoted me $3 a mile, so it'd be $900 to get it here. I know I can get better than that. I'll find somebody better than that to get it here. And I have no reason to doubt Steve's word. He's fulfilled everything and then some, what he's told me he can do. Steve said he can get this thing running. He said that the engine and the transmission are identical in the ones we already have. He's not worried about that a bit. Some hydraulic hoses and maybe a starter relay and batteries, this thing should be up and running. And if we did find an off-site for salt, that would make it much easier for us, because this could stay here to load the trucks. And if we did put salt somewhere else, we could take the smaller backhoe and put it wherever the salt is. That's one thought I had about this unit. Plus, it will load the trucks a lot faster in the winter.
Have
want
you
this?
personally seen this, Terry?
No, it's down in Maryland. That's why I tried to research or to find the person that actually had his hands on this thing, so I could get, the lady that wrote this all up, she's just a lady that works in the office, according to my contact up north, Bill. He said they just write these up and they put them on the website to get rid of them. So I finally got hold of the mechanic today, and he said they just parked this thing because they got a new one. And he said, I know for a fact that I robbed the hose off the boom, and he said to start a relay, and he said that thing ran and drove fine when we parked it, no issues. But Steve doesn't believe, even if that won't engage, he said there's he was explaining it to me, and there's little springs inside the pockets on the side. He said sometimes them springs pop, and you put a new spring in it, and it's fine. But he said even case scenario, if it is bad, it's not connected to the engine like a regular loader is. It's got a coupler between it. He said 4 bolts and this thing will come right out of there. You take the other one out and you put it in place of it. He sounded like it was no big deal. He said, we got it. It's identical units.
$3,300.
Yeah, that guy down there said it was 28 and something, but he said 2,800 and change. But anyway, whatever it is, there's hardly any hours on it.
They're good for 10,000.
Oh, I know. Hours don't. They're taken care of.
That's right.
Trust me.
Tell us why you want this?
To load the trucks in the winter, basically for the sand, to minimize time here in the yard. If you ever told me that all these trucks would show back up here at the same time, I said, there's no way, but the miles are pretty close for the plowing, and they all show up here at the same time. You're loading 7-yard trucks and 14-yard trucks with a yard bucket. It takes a while to load them. If you get something like a 4-yard bucket, they'll be in and out of here in 7-8 minutes a truck versus 40 minutes for all 4. And when you have a big storm, they're coming back, and the sanders are the same. They run the same time, they run out at the same time, they come back at the same time. And then if you get the 2 small trucks here at the same time, there's always pretty good delay here for the salt and the sand. It's all about the loading of the trucks for the sand in the winter. It just, to me, we waste time here.
That's only on the weekends though, 'cause during regular Peckham's normal
Or
hours,
night.
you're down there getting loaded.
Or nights.
Yeah.
Well, you also gotta remember, they don't get there till 7 in the morning.
Yeah.
We usually in here by 4:30.
I'm missing something there. What about Peckham?
During the daylight hours.
During the daylight hours, when Peckham's open, you're loading down there, you're not loading here.
If it's not so cold that we can use regular sand, we'll go down there and load to save our pile. But if it's cold or we need the salted sand, then we have to load out of here. We can't afford to buy their salted sand. It's cheaper for us to mix our own.
Well, you don't wanna use salted sand when it's 30 degrees anyway.
No, I said if it's too cold, if we can, we always use Beckham's. I mean, we
Yeah.
try to save our pile here so we don't have to come in on the
Right,
day off or something to load the pile back up.
yeah.
So we always try to use it, but if it's down to 15 degrees and the roads are turning to ice, we use the salted sand to put the pock marks in them.
Well, sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we're using our pile.
But you don't wanna use salted sand when it's warm.
No, absolutely not.
It goes
Right,
right through it.
right.
What is the possibility, because I saw this afternoon for the first time, of getting this updated? Because, I read here, poor condition, transmission will not engage, will not start, right rear tire split, all kinds of front shackles missing, whatever a shackle is, deficiencies noted, there's just a whole bunch of things here that just raise questions with me, and whoever you're talking to says none of this is accurate.
Well, I called.
Can we get a written confirmation, or get this
Taking a
updated?
ride down there, looking at it.
But will they even update this? Because if I'm buying this, I'm buying a non-functioning vehicle.
Right. And I believe Norm's probably talked to Art about this for some of the stuff he's bought. A lot of times they write a lot of things on there, because when they say it doesn't start, the batteries could be dead. If they say a major oil leak, it could be oil that's spilt all over the engine. It's really a toss-up with these vehicles. Like that truck we got is number one. We've never had an issue with it in 3 years. But like I said, for me taking Steve's word of advice on this, that he doesn't believe there's anything that he can't fix on there in just a couple days with what we've already got, I gotta believe him, because he re-sleeved the grader right here in the garage in a couple days.
Well, I have no doubt that he can do the work.
If he says he can fix that with no problem, I guess I gotta believe that he can. But from talking to this guy today, I was quite thrilled that he said, I'm telling you, that thing was parked, it was running when it was parked. I don't know why all that stuff's written on there. He said, the only reason we parked is we got a new one.
Is this military surplus, or is this?
It is. It's the only way that we'll ever be able to afford one of these things, shy of any other way.
It's probably worth $3,000 or $4,000 down at Brownells.
Scrap.
Seriously.
Yeah, probably.
No, I mean,
Yeah.
you
Well, that's where
can't
this
lose
one's
on
gonna
it.
wind up when, if Steve takes all the parts out of this one, that's where,
He says them
Gonna wind
axles
up.
are worth a fortune. He can sell them axles for big money, he said.
That's how they make monster trucks.
Steve said they're worth a lot of money.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, yeah.
That's right.
He said that, I don't know if I told you that.
Planetary.
He said, if we part that out, we'll make our money back by parting it, not selling a whole. Part it out and sell it.
Okay.
And it's $2,800, you said? Well, how much, how much?
500.
500.
But we got
Yeah,
$1,000 or more to get
Transportation,
it
yeah.
here, so.
Well, especially the parts off that loader out there will fit it, right?
That's what he said. Steve said they're identical, motors and transmission. He said it all will fit right in. He went to John Deere school for 2 years, so like I said, I have no reason to doubt him.
Yeah, well, no, that
He's
looks like a
good.
644 anyway.
544.
544.
But he said it's the same motor and transmissions.
Well, just, yeah, well, that one number, they'll swap them back and forth like
Yeah.
nothing anyway.
Well,
I think we should do it.
are you making a motion?
I am.
Second.
Art's making a motion that we buy this surplus loader from this military surplus loader from the government
Are you sure?
$500.
We haven't got it yet, but we're
Okay.
the only ones in for it.
Okay, there's
Bill
no,
says that he is the next on the list, that we should be able to get it.
there's no Indian tribe ahead of us?
No,
What'd you say?
on the list.
Let's get the,
I'm serious.
if I,
My first quote was $900. It's about 300
we have a
miles.
motion on the table to purchase this for $500. Shall we include the $1,000 transportation
Yes,
that we estimate for that?
yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, now we can discuss it.
I think I can get it down to 265 is what I'm getting at, instead of $3 a mile. If if I look around, I'll find somebody that'll do it cheaper that's coming this way and just needs something to fill up the load.
Yeah.
I'm opposed to this. I'm like David, I'm taking what's written down here, and what's written down here is that this thing is in poor condition, everything on it's broken. I don't see it as a critical piece of equipment that we need. I see it as, yeah, it'd be nice during the cold times and at night to be able to load the trucks faster, but we've been able to do that with the excavator.
No, load, backhoe,
Pardon?
backhoe,
Backhoe, sorry.
yes.
The fact that we have a mechanic on duty doesn't mean that that's his job. This looks like we're going into the used auto business to me, and, we bought that $500 forklift out there and hoped to turn it into one of these, and that didn't work out. I think if we really think we need one of these, we should think about buying one that works, or if, like David said, give us a description in writing that doesn't say it's a piece of junk, because this right here says it's a piece of junk, and if we buy this and it ends up being a piece of junk, the fact that Terry had a phone call from a guy who said it wasn't a piece of junk isn't going to make us look any less ridiculous.
Brownell buy it for more than 5 times what you paid for it.
We're not in the auto reselling business.
No.
Well, I know, but it's just, originally I would be opposed to it too. But it's, like he says, he does need it for the winter time only maybe, and you're not talking a lot of money. I mean, in worst case, put him in a truck, let him go down there.
We are going to be talking about a lot of money by the time we make the decision to surplus this, because we're going to spend who knows how much on mechanic time and parts to try and get this working, if it's in fact in the condition that it's in
You're
here.
paying the mechanic anyway. He's gonna be there regardless.
And really, the month of November is fairly our slow month of any kind of maintenance. And just take this in consideration, Tim, we only have one vehicle that loads equipment here. they have had that go down before, and they're scrambling to get something else here, and it's always been a concern of mine since day one here, is we only have one piece of equipment that loads trucks in the wintertime. If that does go down with a flat tire, or it won't start in the morning, or whatever it could be a simple thing, but it's still gonna cost us more time. I just think it's viable for us to have a second piece of equipment that will load a truck. I mean, because it's always crucial how fast we're out on the roads in the morning for morning rush hour, how much we get done and the amount of time it takes us to get it done. So, I mean, that's, I think, more important, why we have a second piece of equipment to load the trucks, more so than just looking at it that it looks like a piece of junk, but in the second hand, you've got one of the better crew members in this, probably the state, that knows how to work on them, that works right for you here.
If we do need a second piece of equipment, and having a backup to do that does make sense, I could agree with that, but I would not be in favor of buying something that says in writing it's a piece of junk.
I mean, class 3 oil leak used in Cam Point. I mean, these are all things you say you can get off that machine, right? That,
Cam
we didn't
Point's
have,
the
did we have
basis.
one last year? We didn't have a backup last year, did we? We used one
No,
yard.
the backhoe was, I mean, it was brand new 3 years ago. It's just starting to get some wear on. I'm just pointing out, no matter what, you have one piece of equipment here that loads the trucks in the wintertime. And it is small. And well, Ken probably is the oldest member here on the board. He remembers from day one, I've always said it was too small for what we're doing with it. It's just this, and then the day they got it, I said, boy, that's awful small to be loading your trucks in the wintertime. But
Especially the tandems. Or
Yeah, I think one of the problems is the
winter
trucks have
tandems.
doubled in size.
Tim?
Jay Palmer.
Just a quick question, I mean, Maryland isn't that far, can't somebody get out and take a look at this? Day trip, and you probably could get back on the same day, yeah.
We could, yeah, I don't know how it might satisfy some people, but like I say, I'm not willing to buy something that says in writing it's got all these problems. I don't know if we could decide on a visit, maybe you tell me, that we could go down there and look at it and decide that none of these things are true?
if we took a couple batteries with us, we could put it in, and, I mean, if it started up and moved, would that make you feel better about it? I guess I'm not really, I can't start if it doesn't have a starter relay, but,
Yeah, I mean,
starter relay is like $39 part, that's a little teeny, it just connects the wires is all it does.
Take one with you.
Get that, take that down with you.
Take one of them with us,
yeah, I mean, maybe,
Take one off that machine out there.
can't we wait for a better opportunity when the government surpluses one that they don't put in writing as a piece of junk?
we'll never get it. The Indian
I mean,
Affairs,
Tim, you're talking $500, like I say, you can take it down to Brownells, make it 6 times over.
if it didn't work out is what he's saying, but
Yeah.
I still want to favor that it will work out for us.
Normally, I'm not in favor of that stuff either, Tim.
But this is a $135,000 piece of equipment, am I about right there?
Well, that might be stretching it. Might be stretching it a little bit,
I
but,
paid 70 for a used one, size smaller,
yeah.
Size smaller, okay.
70,000.
All right, so 70,000 even.
And that was
I mean,
used.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, what Bill Beard told me up in northern Vermont, he says, somebody did you a favor if this is what it is, and they wrote all that stuff on there, because nobody else is gonna be looking at it. If it's as good as this other guy says it is, then they did you a favor, because nobody else is gonna put in for it. So that's up to you guys, that's your call.
Why don't we
I'm just
table-
presenting it, I'm saying we have the parts right here, anything that's expensive, we have it.
Why don't we table the motion until he goes down and takes a look at it?
We have a motion, can we postpone that until, let's say postpone, table requires a vote that we
Okay.
come back again.
Yep.
We have a motion to postpone this until such time as we have more information about the actual condition of this, this bucket loader. Is there a second for the motion to postpone?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, the motion is postponed.
Take a road trip.
So I guess you get a starter relay and a couple batteries and
Well, that starter relay should be out there.
so should.
Batteries are out there too. Just as long as you verify, you know, that it is what it is.
Are you going with them, Tim?
Yeah, I want to see those shackles.
Yes.
I'd like to see shackles on a loader too.
We want to shackle
such
it.
thing.
It's a shackle.
Oh, that's,
No, there's no shackles on a loader. That's what I don't,
It's direct.
there's no hydraulic manifold either, and it says that on there. I called John Deere today, I said, is there something that I don't know about? What is a hydraulic manifold? He said, I have no idea what you're talking about. I said, okay, thank you. That's what I thought, but
How about the person that wrote it?
it's a, well, like I said, it's a lady
They
in
obviously
an
know what they're
office.
talking about.
The Army.
that's right.
All right, so on our to-do list, we have
All right, we're gonna get a report from Terry.
Terry.
Terry's going to.
Road salt
Maryland.
purchase, there's 44 ton on its way.
Okay. Are they artificially creating a shortage?
Depends on the winter.
Well, I don't think there's a shortage of salt per se. I think it's the problem with mining it fast enough. I think a lot of this is going south now. They're stocking up because of what happened last year, so they're being precautious now, and then they're taking a lot of the salt out of the mines. And if you call directly to the mine, they say they're working 7 days a week, they can't make it fast enough. So when they told me that, and I got a notice saying, you better order what you want as soon as you can, because it could be tough to get again in January like it was last year.
Virginia usually doesn't stockpile salt.
Right,
Georgia.
Georgia.
Georgia, they gotta be panicked.
They said it's going to Georgia.
Yeah.
It's all going down to Georgia.
They screwed up so badly.
You never been there just after a storm, have you?
When I was in the Marine Corps, they shut the town down before it snowed.
Parking lot.
Well,
If it was getting a dusting, they'd say everything's canceled. Huh?
oh yeah, yeah. They do, they panic.
So I do believe that there is some truth to it, that they can't mine it fast enough. Because everyone's buying it now.
And this thing only has 3,300 hours.
Yeah.
They're usually good to, usually consider 10,000 hours is when you gotta start putting money into them.
Anything else for Terry? All right, thank you, Terry.
All right. Have a
Thank
good
you,
night.
Terry. Yep.
Item 13, Town Administrator's Report.
Okay, nothing much tonight. A couple quick things. I had a visit from Great West Financial. They have 457 plans for employees, where that would be, it's another retirement plan that employees can contribute to, either pre-tax or after-tax dollars. Has no effect on the town. The town makes no contribution to it. Our sole role in it would be simply adding it to our pay data account so that it could be deducted. I just met with her today. I've had one of these before. They're really quite good if you want to be put into it. All employees, part-time and full-time, would be eligible to have deductions from their payroll for it. As I get more information on it, the board would have to adopt it and agree that Great Western, by the way, is the company contracted by the state of Vermont to run this for state municipal employees in the state. It's very common among law enforcement to have these as backup plans for their pensions, and other municipalities and larger places have these quite commonly. So, but it's just basically, if you take whatever your $100 you get paid, you want to put in $5 a month into this program. It's invested in accounts like Fidelity and that. It's managed by Great Western. Great Western, through the state, does everything. The municipality does nothing, except just next to, like my name, deduct $10 on the pay data account, so they just take it out of my paycheck.
Do we have any other plan right now, or is there a?
VEMR's, this is like a backup to VEMR's, or just a separate way for you to invest pre-tax or after-tax, you can do it either way,
Okay, so,
to create a retirement account. It's a retirement account.
yeah, so we don't have any SEP IRAs or simple IRAs or anything else like that?
No,
Okay.
no, it's straight out of this. And I'll have more information from her, and then I'll bring it back to the board, and if the board approves it, then we can offer it to the employees. Whether anybody will be interested in it, I'm gonna just kind of feel people out over the
Yep,
next few
okay.
weeks. And it's just another benefit we could put out there.
Okay,
We could talk in this budget season if that's what they want to do, maybe even doing a 1% match or something too.
The town can't match
If we
this.
budget for it.
town can't
Town
manage.
can't match.
Oh,
We can't be
town?
involved
Oh,
in it.
can't, municipalities can't.
Yeah,
okay.
it's just the individual, another way to have a retirement account.
Okay.
Just outside.
Doesn't sound like there's a downside.
No, it is actually an excellent way just to take money out of your pay, you don't see it, and you're just building up over time. For especially some of the younger employees, it's really an excellent way. You know, I always found if you don't get the money in your check, you don't have any trouble saving it, it just disappears.
Definitely easier.
Yes. We might have an issue coming up. There was a request from some residents on Bayhen Road for the town to take over the road. The only thing I can find is the 1999 policy on the town taking control over a private road. It has to meet all kinds of engineering standards and all kinds of approvals by the town, the road foreman, has to meet all the standards of the state. I forwarded that all to them, so if it comes up again, if I hear back from them, we might have to address that. It's an option of the town to do it or not.
Town, that's not a town road,
No,
Bayham Road?
not the part that goes up. Yeah, how it goes in and then, I'm sorry, I forget the name of the road that continues, but Bayhan actually goes up to the left,
Okay.
and that's the part we're talking about.
So it's a private road now, and
Yes.
they're looking.
How many houses?
around there, do you know?
I believe it's 5. 3 is the minimum.
And now somebody else
Yeah,
is
someone
plowing?
just asked, they made an inquiry, and I had to go find this thing from 1999, which appears to be the only policy the town has, and we do take over towns if it meets all these, takes over roads if it meets all these
Yeah, there's,
very specific
yes.
requirements.
Yeah, okay.
And I honestly don't have any idea of the status of the road or whether it meets any of these, so I forwarded it along so they could look at and get back to us.
Who's plowing it now? Is
I forget the
is
gentleman.
Weaver?
Yeah, I
Weaver
believe
plowing
it
it
is
now?
Weaver. Yeah, I believe it is.
Okay.
Yep. So that might come back.
Okay.
Last Friday, I sent this out to everyone. It's in the form of a motion. We approved the lease for the truck. Part of the lease agreement is it has to go through attorney review. The attorney reviewed it, and he would like this read into the record and sign a motion made of this by the board and sign, and that'll complete the lease, and we can pay for the truck that we already have. So that might be nice. I typed this up. I don't know if you want to read this in. That's exactly the wording from Rob Wilmington's office, right off the printer. It's a formality. We've already agreed to the lease. We had the public hearings on buying the truck. We had the public hearings on financing the truck. And we had the public hearing voting to lease the truck. We have to put this in the file, so.
The motion says the select board hereby approves leasing of the 2015 International 7600 Tandem Chassis Viking PLSD 14S spreader, dump, plow, and wing plowing truck for the public purpose of road maintenance and plowing subject to the terms and conditions of the master lease purchaser agreement between Lesser Tax Exempt Lease Corporation and Leasee, Town of Shaftsbury. Passage of this motion authorizes the chair of this select board or the town administrator to execute Schedule 02 to the agreement and any other documents reasonably necessary to complete the transaction.
So move.
Moved by Art Whitman, seconded by
I'll second it.
Race.
What's a Schedule 2? Is that like quarterly payments?
No, Schedule 2 is to try and move this process along, because it was dragging. We leased through the same company in 2012.
So it's
The master lease agreement is the same master lease agreement that was agreed to that we agreed to in March 2. That truck was Schedule 01,
Okay,
this is
that's-
Schedule 02. It saves a lot of more legal review and documentation, because Wilmington's office had already reviewed the master lease. So we're just doing a new truck off the old master lease.
Sounds good to me.
It saves a little time, and all, these are the forms they're talking about, which I sent out in the packet a couple of weeks ago, with, all the multiple lease documents we have to sign involved with this, that either Tim or I will sign as we go through these. And the truck is here. We've already taken the truck up, the body's being put on, and frankly, they'd like to get paid.
I'm sure they do.
Any other discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstain? So does he want us all to sign this?
The one we did back in 2012, everybody signed, I kind of just did the same format, just,
Okay.
I don't really know if it's required, but,
Better safe than sorry.
yeah, everybody signed the last one, so.
And while we're signing this, would you relate to the board some of the discussion we had today about how we find ourselves in a position of having to spend $1,000 on an attorney to lease a truck?
Yeah, there's a lot of extra cost going into the process we use for this purchase of leasing. We've had 2 rounds of advertisements, 2 rounds of bids, 2 rounds of bid openings. Because we're leasing it through this method of these out-of-state leasing companies, we're winding up having to pay for attorney review of these leases, which is costing more money. Because we're getting the body and the chassis from 2 different vendors, we're now paying our guys to drive the chassis upstate to have the body put on, and then we have to send 2 guys up to go get the truck and bring the body back. So I think for the next round, which hopefully won't be too soon, we need to look at a more holistic purchase of a vehicle. You know, we can get bids from a number of companies that will deliver a truck from beginning to end with the blades, with the dumps and everything, and also financing, and not have to, what little we might have saved in a financing cost, I think we've lost in man hours going back and forth, in ads in the banner for the bids, ads in the banner for the bids for the financing, for hours spent on this. This is not even the complete folder of paperwork we've gone around on this truck. We have another one would bring it out to here.
What form of financing would it be? Would it be a lease?
Well, we could go to a straight buy. We do have, I think I mentioned this before, we do have an opportunity coming up to look at what you were talking about before, putting money aside to start purchasing
See,
trucks.
that's what's bothering me right along, is
Yeah.
that we're leasing, but it's gonna take time to set that much money aside.
Well, we have a big payoff coming up. It'll be the end of 2016, but we'll be in a position to look at extending the lives of some of these vehicles, working out some kind of maintenance schedule to stretch them out a little bit more. But a whole bunch of this new equipment we have now will be paid off. And we might be able to set up a program where maybe we're not paying the whole thing, but we're putting a substantial amount down on each vehicle and getting better loans and paying less in interest. We're paying this quite a lot
That's right.
of interest this year, and it's going to go up with this new tandem when that goes on.
Yep.
It'll be close to a quarter, you know, so it's a lot of interest, and that's going to plummet in 2016, and I think that's when we should be aiming to start having real equipment funds to replace each individual piece of equipment. Because even the next one, I think, will probably be like the grader, because we have one old grader. It is pretty old, but, you know, they last a long time, but that's an expensive piece of equipment. And for a town like this, there's no way around it. You're going to have your 2 graders.
You think so?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's something to bring up. But this way, I haven't been involved in a process like this before where there's so many steps involved. And to me, every cost, whether it's an employee, whether when an employee spends time on something, there's a cost factor involved. And now we have attorneys involved, and we have mailings to Indiana and all this other stuff. And, you know,
Yep.
saving the interest, half a point on interest, I think is gone on this.
Yep. Okay.
So it's a different method, and I think we could come up with a better one.
If you could think of a way, it would be nice to institutionalize some memory to that effect, because what happened this time is David, when he started trying to figure out how to do this, he went, you know, through the files and find how we had financed
Yeah.
truck purchases before, and this was the process. And
Yeah.
having gone through it this time, we're deciding that maybe this isn't the best process. And what would be nice if, you know, if you get hit by a truck and you know,
Yeah, somebody would.
4 years from now,
Yeah, no, it's the
a
truth.
different
yeah.
select board is buying another
Yeah.
truck, they're gonna go to the files and find the lease
Yeah.
and start down the same road.
Because that is
again.
exactly correct. I mean, this was ordered, and when I came here, it was time to get the financing going, and here's the financing proposal, and so I picked it up and said, okay, if this is the way we do it here, then this is what I'll do. But, you know, the first day on the job wasn't the day to start changing.
I mean, the lease is up with two, you said the two big leases are coming up in 2016, right?
2016, I
So-
don't have that list with me, but
We
there's a
can
number of
continue to
things.
appropriate those funds to the reserve fund, but, I mean, if there's a need, which most of these purchases on lease were a need at the time, money was cheap at that time, and so they leased it. And the lease it's a misnomer, it's not like you pay for 5 years and give it back. Once you're done with the lease, you own it.
Yeah, we keep it.
So it's not like a lease, you're buying a car, 3 years, 36,000 miles or anything like that.
Which is, again, kind of my point, that by going to these out-of-state and other leasing people, it's adding a level of expense than rather just financing it straight out from
Yeah,
the
I mean,
dealer.
there
I mean,
should-
we're just financing a truck here,
Yeah, it should be.
and we've added all these steps on.
The
Get it
trouble
all
is,
together.
if we financed it for 5 years, we'd have to get the approval of the whole town, because
Yeah.
we're getting into an obligation for 5 years.
That's
Whereas,
what the lease.
for 1 year at a time, the select board can do it.
Yeah,
What
and
is the
by
term of the
having,
lease?
the lease doesn't have, we can enter into a lease agreement for that amount without going to voter approval. If you go for a certain amount of a vehicle, you have to have voter approval for it. But,
But lease is a 1-year contract,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
the loophole.
and we
This
can
is
get
just
out
a
of this
1-year
anytime we want.
Oh, okay.
Which obviously nobody wants to, and we never have. But the other option is, if we can not be spending all this money on leases and storing some of this up, we can reduce the finance charges by just financing less.
That's
And we
right.
still wouldn't be in the position of having to have a vote every time we wanted to have a dump
Oh,
truck,
the-
because we'd be paying off half of it up front.
That's right, the voters would approve a budget that sets money aside.
Sets money aside to purchase trucks.
Yep.
And then when the day comes, we write off for half the truck right there from the fund and move on from there.
Yep.
And we'd still be well below the threshold.
Right.
Just different ways to look at it as
Yep.
time goes by.
Okay.
And that's all I have for town administrator tonight.
Is there any other business?
Didn't Bob say the appropriation letters were going out October 1st, due back December 1st? When he was here talking about for the
Community
appropriation.
appropriations?
Yeah, I just haven't seen one yet. I'm gonna call him tomorrow, see.
Yeah, I asked Bob to stop by too, so we could talk about all that too. I think he's.
Because I haven't seen the letter that I
Night.
normally get, with the format and all that
Okay.
stuff.
Let's follow up on that.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Neighbor.
David, can I assign that to
Yeah.
you?
Yeah, because I wanted to speak with Bob about the whole process anyway.
I'm sure you've heard of it. It should call me. Yes, that's what I said.
Okay, action items. I'm going to find out from the school what kind of replacement insurance we have on the generator. We need to, David, can I assign to you looking into whether or not a town vote or a vote of the select board is necessary to enter into the solid waste
Alliance or district.
alliance or district? Terry is going to make a road trip to inspect the $500 bucket loader, and David is going to talk to Bob Holmes about the community appropriations letters and when they're going out. Anybody remember anything else we have to do?
I know he said that. We have to get them in by the December, the appropriation letters have to be returned to the town auditor by December 1st, I believe is what he said. So he said they were going out October 1st.
Yeah. I don't recall exactly what he said, but I was talking to him last week about sitting down and going through all this process and putting the book together
Go
and
ahead.
everything.
Then at this time, I move that we go into executive session to discuss a real estate transaction. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.